Hey guys, Coach Travis Smash here with another episode of Gym Aware Educational Series. And today we're talking about the pin squat. Now, we've already gone over the box squat. So you might want to check that out. We compared the box squat to the traditional squat. And this time we're going to complete that series with the pin squat. Kind of compare it to both the box and the traditional. So there's a lot of variations. I kind of think that the pin squat is the most overlooked variation. So, and it's very simple to use because most of us have have some type of squat system where we can use the pins. But anyway, let's jump in. I guess before, make sure, guys, GymAware, go to gymaware.com for the blog for all of my articles in case you haven't been reading all of them. All right, what is a pin squat? So it's where you basically set the pins of a power rack at a certain height, and you can do one of two ways. You can either take it out and squat it like you normally would, and you squat down to where the pins are, pause it for if you want to completely eliminate the stretch shortening cycle and any stored elastic components. You got to pause at least for completely 4 seconds. You can eliminate quite a bit if you have a 2-second pause. But if you just touch and go, you're not really going to eliminate the stretch shortening cycle. So consider that. However, the thing that you have with the pin squats is you can go bottom up. So at that point, you eliminate the stretch shortening cycle because there is none, because you start in the bottom. It's like doing a concentric squat jump. So that's the advantage. And you can get very specific with the heights when it comes to the pins. So you have that. And so if you do the bottom up, if you were to start in the bottom and you squat the bar up, you could rack it, 0 eccentric component. Or you can start from the bottom, squat up, go back down, and kind of keep going, and you eliminate any kind of damage from that eccentric amortization phase. You eliminate quite a bit then. So several ways. Now, here's the thing. What is the difference in the pin squat and the box squat? Well, first off, you got the bottom up. You can't do that in the box squat because you got to have somewhere to rest the bar. So always with the box squat, it comes out and you squat it down. You sit on the box and for whatever long you want to pause it and come up. But the bottom up, like I said, eliminates elastic component in the stretch shortening cycle. So there's that. And so it completely focuses on the recruitment of the high threshold motor units. And so rate coding is the big focus, and we'll talk about why that's important in a minute. And so, and we've already said that the top down is, it requires like a 4-second pause, just like the box squat. Now, the bottom up is completely concentric in nature. And so, the box squat with a 4-second pause, yes, you eliminate the stretch shortening cycle and components. However, the torso remains contracted no matter what you do. And so with that, there is an advantage. And when you do the bottom up with the pin squats, you go from 0. You have nothing contracted. So it really is a true look at starting strength. And so there's the big advantage too with the pin squat versus the box squat. There's no two-way compression that freaks out myself and Coach Mike Boyle. He hates the box squat, and so and I don't like it personally because it's the one time I got hurt with my back was box squatting. But there is a way to do it safely. Now, the benefits of the pin squat. All right, so first off, starting strength. What is that? That's overcoming inertia. It's going to happen. It needs to be at least at 1.3 meters per second or faster. And so it's really a look at one's ability to go from 0 to hero. It's looking at rate coding starting from 0 of the high threshold motor units. If you know the size principle, it starts from you recruit the smaller threshold motor units, and then as your body requires more and more force, it eventually recruits those high threshold motor units. So you got to get really good at going from 0 to recruiting those big muscles to fire at a high rate. And so, but the key, the more you do it, is the more it allows you to synchronize those contractions and those recruitments of the high threshold motor units and the coordination of that, making sure things are handled smoothly. So you can specify heights to mimic the athletic endeavors, and you can really, with the use of velocity, you can be specific in those velocity ranges, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So I love the pin squat, and it might be, if you really want to focus on the concentric contraction, that might be the better way to go. So now the principle of specificity. When you use the pin squats, you can get really good at nailing down the range of motion or the height of specific jumps. So you think about like or start in a sprint. You look at the range of motion at the ankles, the knees, and the hips, and you can dial that in with a pin squat and get really good, especially if you're looking at using velocity. I get better and better at those specific ranges of motion. And so, or for weightlifting, for my weightlifters, if there's any listening, if you really want to get better at, say, your jerk, you can specify the height of the jerk dip squat. When you do a jerk, there's a slight, squat. It's a very high one, but you can get really good at that. And this is one of the ways with Ruby Shepherd that we've improved her. In 1 year, we took her jerk from 85 kilos to 125. So that was incredible. 275 pounds. And she went down a weight class. So something to consider. You can also pinpoint the velocity. So think about this. At the line of scrimmage in American football, that collision happens on an average of 0.7 meters per second or greater. Or a wide receiver is going to accelerate off the line of scrimmage at about 1.09 meters per second. And so you can, with the use of velocity-based training, you can pinpoint the range of motion, and you can pinpoint those velocity ranges and get really, really good at creating tons of force at those heights and at those velocities. So one thing I'd like to add here too, I think a lot of times people will say, well, velocity-based training is not good for helping sprinting because, sprinting happens at such a high velocity. But you guys are forgetting that sprinting happens at there's multiple segments in sprinting. There's the acceleration phase. There's the transition where you transition from the acceleration to the top end. And then there's max velocity. So you can't just consider max velocity when you're talking about using strength movements to improve speed and other athletic endeavors. So consider that. Now, the third benefit of the pin squats. We've already kind of gone over it, but athletic performance, like I said, think of the start of a sprint. Think of a jump ball in basketball. It's all concentric. Or a throw in wrestling. You guys are wrestling around. You get them in a good position, you throw them. Or a shot put. So with the pin squat, you can be specific of those range of motions and velocities. Pretty much nailed this already, but if you use velocity-based training with the pin squats, you can make it almost like Verkhoshansky was talking about the power clean and how good weightlifters seem to defy the relationship between force and velocity. You get really good at certain ranges of motion, starting from zero and producing as much force as possible in as shorter range, in as short a time as possible. So you get better at the starting strength, the acceleration, which acceleration is how fast can somebody go from whatever the original velocity is, which in this case will be zero, to the top end. You can get better and better and faster at that, which is in essence the rate of force development. So now one thing that we've been doing is we've been monitoring specific heights and specific percentages of body weight. We've been looking at 75, 90, 100, and 100, and then between 105 to 120%. That varies between how strong someone is and how long someone's been lifting. So we have found the better, by better I mean, let's say the trap bar jump. The faster someone moves their body weight, 100%. So it's their body already plus 100% on the trap bar. That is equaling faster runs and higher jumps. So another thing that the velocity-based training will do is it will maximize intent. If you look at Weekly J et al., that's 2023. If you really want to maximize compensatory acceleration, which means you're truly accelerating throughout a range of motion, give somebody immediate feedback, and you will, by whatever you think you're doing, it'll get better. So And finally, 5, this will maximize the concentric contraction of power. So normally that's going to happen. If you want to know where does power maximize, it's going to happen between 100 and 110% of body weight. So by ongoing monitoring, which we do every week, you can see that ability gets better and better. Managing fatigue too, and so that's the 6th one. Really, if you think about in season, you can completely eliminate adding any type of fatigue because you can do the bottom up. Or you can do the top down and you can minimize the damage that's going to happen during the amortization phase. But a bottom up to a rack might be the best way, though, to monitor fatigue because you can put it at a specific height each time for the person. So, the thing is when you're monitoring fatigue, if you're using, like, say, a squat to do it, sometimes people will go deeper than normal and that will affect the velocity. But with a pin squat, you can make sure they're doing it off the same pin every single time, and it's a great way to monitor fatigue and then address that. You can go back and look at jimaware.com at the blog and see an article all about monitoring fatigue and then what you do when you see that someone's fatigue is high. So, all right, shortcomings of the pin squat. Let's move on to that. Number one, when you eliminate the dynamic phase, you got to think there are elements in the athletic world, and most of them actually require an eccentric contraction and an amortization phase. So you don't want to just do pin squats. Remember, it's just a tool. And so when you eliminate that whole stretch shortening cycle, and it's going to not really do anything good for the neuromuscular system and those reactive components of the body. So the tendons, connective tissue, all those things, all the physiological components that are responsible for stored elastic energy, they're improved by the eccentric contractions. So don't do it all the time. I'm not saying eliminate squats. I would never say that. So also, it's not going to be a good way to maximize your hypertrophy. And finally, it's not really practical either. So if you have a large group of, say, 50 people, if you have a group of 4, the odds are somebody's going to be doing more work, even at the same height, because even at the same height, they're still going to have different anthropometrics, meaning somebody might have long femurs, somebody might not. So it's really hard, in a group setting. But even if it's close, if you're in a high school group, it's still, just like the box squat, you're still going to get benefits. So it's not the end of the world. It's just probably not your best bet year-round. Risks. It's probably the safest. If you think about it, when it comes to compression, it's probably the safest of all the squats, especially if you do the bottom up, because your time under compression is minimized and there's no eccentric phase. So it's probably the safest, but the only risk would be this. When you do the top down and you lose that tactile feedback because you're on the pins, you might get out of position. So that could be a risk. So, all right, finally, practical applications. In season, this is a great way to eliminate muscle damage. If you want to target the starting strength at specific loads and heights, it's a great way to do it in specific ranges of motion. One thing you might want to do is use it for post-activation potentiation, meaning do a bottom up or even a top down at a higher range of motion because it's still going to create less muscle damage, and then pair it with a heavy squat or some athletic endeavor. And finally, use VBT to monitor and to test to really take advantage of this key exercise and method. All right, guys, Travis at jimaware.com. You guys hit me up for any topics you'd like to see me do or any questions you have about this one. Go to jimaware.com for all of your velocity-based training needs. Thanks.